right, Becca. Well, I want to thank you for coming back. This is about our third session now.
I think so.
Um, and I know that you've been doing really well, taking to like the homework that I've been giving
Mm,
and things of that nature.
been helpful.
Thank you. Do you have any questions so far, concerns about how the process of counseling therapy is going?
Um, no, I think I'm definitely like my behavior is feeling a little bit better, but I think
Okay.
I'm still having a lot of like anxious thoughts, and I don't really
Mm-hmm.
know how to, I guess, work on getting rid of the thoughts. I think we maybe just work from behavior.
Okay. All right. And like I said, this is our third session.
Mm-hmm.
And I did kind of notice a sort of pattern or theme of when you were discussing to me about, things that were troubling you or causing you
Mm-hmm.
problems. And I did notice that work was one of your
Yes,
biggest issues.
definitely.
Would you consider work to be like the primary stressor in your life or?
Um, I would say at this point probably yeah. Like
Mhm.
school stresses me out, but I do kind of feel like I do my work and then that's it. But like work, there's so many other like aspects to it that it's all just
Okay,
kind
so
of
you're
overwhelming.
Okay. So you're saying that there's other, like you said, aspects to work that
Yes.
may contribute to like your stress and anxiety, things of that nature. So can you tell me what exactly um, at work or with work that's potentially causing the stress or anxiety in your life?
Yeah, there's definitely several. Like I work as a case manager at a treatment facility for kids who are
Hmm.
usually they're coming out of like psychiatric hospitals. And then I also recently started working with the kids who are they're placed by their school district there, and they just come during the day for school. I recently just started working with them like a couple months ago. So a lot of the times, like I feel like I'm coming home and I'm having trouble not worrying about the kids. Like maybe especially when they just get there. Especially I've had some like cases with like teenage girls, and I think because I'm still fairly young myself, like I always kind of feel maybe not motherly, maybe like older sisterly with them, and so I'll
Okay.
come home and just find myself kind of hung up on worrying about them, and that stresses me out. But I think more so, what's causing a lot of issues is the staff. Like I enjoy working there, and some days like I go and I work and it feels really productive. But like the staff can be very disorganized. So like I'm new. I just started working there about 6 months ago, and so I've been trying to like learn how to do things, and so I'll ask questions to one person, and they're like, "Oh, I don't know how to do that. Like talk to Kelly, or talk to Brenda, or talk to someone else." And no one can really give me like a clear answer. So I always
Hmm.
just feel like I'm like kind of like I don't know, like swimming underwater, and I can't
Hmm.
quite get like out. Like
Got
I'm
you.
just kind of always trying to work, and I'm never sure if I'm doing it correctly.
Hmm.
And then some of the employees just seem so like to have just lost all like compassion. So it's kind of hard. A lot of the staff is much older,
Hmm.
like more into like their like 50s and 60s. So a lot of them have been in the field for a long time, and they just seem to have kind of like yeah lost any sense of caring. And so I just worry like I'm only 24. Am I going to get to a point then that I'm just like you
Kind
know
of, blase about it with your
yes,
work. Okay.
definitely.
Okay. So, wow, that definitely seems like a lot.
Hmm.
Um, and like you just said, that some of the, I guess, older employees at your job, have a lack of compassion,
Yes.
to you wanting to be able to learn these things of your job and trying to put in your best effort.
Hmm.
Would you say?
Yes, definitely.
Okay. And would you also say that because they lack compassion, that kind of, adds on to your anxiety of trying to make sure that you're doing your job correctly? Or,
I think so. A lot of the time, especially like with the when the parents are coming in, like the woman who does our intake is just I don't want to be mean, but she seems very much like a bitter old woman, and
mm,
so a lot of the times she's talking to these parents and she's being very short, and so I feel like it's kind of like I feel like falls on me to kind of come back behind her and try to like these are parents dealing with a lot like their kids have like mental health issues or a lot of behavioral issues, and I mean some of them honestly aren't very good parents, that's what's
mm,
causing the issues, but a lot of them are just good people trying to do their best, but a lot of the times she seems very judgmental. Like a lot of people, like she seems to judge a lot of people who are like of like a lower economic status. Um, and so I'm always trying to kind of like come behind her and like I don't want to say cover for her, but maybe just like I feel like it's my job to support them because
And
she doesn't seem to.
yeah, kind of in a sense to clean up her mess of, giving off that kind of attitude,
Yes.
I would say. Okay. Okay. Now to go back just a little bit to what you mentioned about, your career, things like that, you're a little worried about, if you're doing your job right, is this something that's going to be carried on into your career future wise
Yes.
and things of that nature. So with your current job now and the issues that you're having now, would you say those are things that you can kind of deal with now and then kind of work towards something different in the future with your career that you want to do, or
I would think so because I'm like a case manager and like we do counseling and stuff there, and I'm currently in school to be a counselor sometime in the future. So I feel like it's good experience to get to like I guess understand like the paperwork side of things because like I consider myself a pretty compassionate person. I don't think I'll really have trouble connecting with people.
Okay.
But I think that like it's good now to have that experience with handling like the paperwork and like the business side of it, so that I'm not floundering on that like later in my career. But I think the whole experience makes me nervous. I think to maybe to see one how I am now like with worrying about clients, and two just to see how some of these older adults are with just like no compassion because I'm like I know I'll need to be able to like keep my emotional distance so that I don't like just get overwhelmed by it all the time, but I definitely don't want to get to a point where I'm just like I don't really care, they're just kids,
having
they're
like
just
a
brats
whatever attitude about it.
Yes.
Okay. Let's see here. And when you're at work, on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you say, or where would you rank your anxiety level?
I'd say on the worst, like on the bad days, I would put it up at like an 8 or 9. Like sometimes, sometimes I'm just sitting in my office and I just feel like overwhelmed. Like I don't really know what to. Like, I'll kind of almost lose the ability to do even like really simple tasks because I'm just like overwhelmed. There have been days, like on my more productive days, the days where I'm feeling like I'm doing tasks that I feel comfortable with and like I know how to do. I'd say it's probably down to like a 4 or 5. Like it's definitely like a lot lower. But yeah, some days are insane.
So on the days that are, like you said, a little bit overwhelming, and you would rank those as an 8 or a 9, is there anything that you could potentially do that could lower that number on the scale, or?
I think like if I could be a little more like assertive, because one of my fears I think is that like my bosses think I'm not doing a good job, but don't know that like no one has really taught me how to do much of this. So I think if I could be more assertive and tell someone like, hey, I don't know how to do this. Someone needs to be clear and like tell me how to do this. But then I don't want to seem like incompetent. Like I don't want to seem like, oh geez, she needs everything spelled out for her kind of thing. So I think like maybe trying to talk to someone about like how to do certain things, but I don't know I guess how I'd feel in that situation.
Okay. And so you mentioned your sort of lack of assertiveness. So how do you think your self-esteem would play into that, things like that, when you're going into work?
I think probably feeling like unsure of myself and like probably wanting to like prove myself a lot. Like I'm kind of trying to prove myself to myself, as well as to others. I think like I definitely just want to seem like I've gotten all under control, and so they'll many times just kind of keep giving me more and more work, and I'm I don't want to say like, hey guys, that's a little bit too much. Like I have my school hours too, but I think just like wanting to seem good, and I guess the fear that they're gonna I think maybe sometimes I think I'm not very intelligent, so I don't want them to see like or to start to think like, oh, whoops, we hired her and she's not as smart as we thought, kind of thing.
Okay, I see. I see. So, with you mentioning how some of your self-esteem can come from, thoughts of your coworkers not thinking you're intelligent.
Mhm.
So, what if you blocked out those thoughts of your coworkers, or just people in general who you think may think that you're not so intelligent?
Mhm.
If you blocked out those thoughts or those opinions, would you feel like that would be less stressful for you? Like in terms of like your anxiety, things
Mhm.
like that, would you feel like you would be able to get work done a lot more?
Yeah, I think so. Like, I think that would definitely like what one, I think would clear up a lot of the pressure of like, okay, yeah, this report has to be perfect because they're gonna think I'm an idiot if it's not. And two, I think like I'd feel a lot more comfortable just like asking questions. I think
Mm-hmm.
so. I always have trouble like thinking like I'll ask a question and they won't really answer everything in it, so I'll go back and try to ask another question. But at that point, like once they've answered something once, I just want to like just figure it out for myself from there. So I think if I didn't worry like about them thinking I'm dumb or whatever, like I think I could definitely gain a lot more like like confidence and just like insight and ability and
Mm-hmm.
everything.
Okay. That sounds like a good kind of like start,
Mm-hmm.
being
Yeah.
able to just like block out the negative opinions and negative thoughts, from others or even maybe from yourself as
Mm-hmm.
well. Um, yeah, that's definitely a good start. Um, would you say that at work you have a lot of distractions or your attention is not, there, your like um, focus is kind of off?
Yeah, I think like yeah, on certain days, like I think on some days I'll come in like really like motivated and like I'll just kind of like knock out a bunch of things and I'll leave that day feeling great. But yeah,
Mhm.
like a lot of times I'm distracted by things that like aren't even happening at work, but stuff like in like my personal life, or like stuff with my family. I'll just kind of be thinking about it, and that'll just kind of like shut me down. Like I'll just get tired and like yeah, unfocused and distracted.
Mhm.
I don't think there's a ton to necessarily distract me at work. Like my my boss, like my actual boss who like runs the place, is he's like 72. He's just a very chatty, grandfatherly like
Mhm.
type. So a lot of the times, like I'll leave my office and I'll go and he'll like ask me questions and we'll just stand there and chat for a while. And I think it's technically like a distraction, but I think that's good because I think it's like a sort of like like a release, and
A
also makes me
release,
feel a
yeah.
lot more like like he's a person instead of just like I don't
Just
know.
management,
Yes,
authority figure.
exactly. But I
Mhm.
think more like distractions come from like outside thoughts.
Okay. All right. And then, of course, going back, like we said, we can definitely work on blocking out those
Mhm.
outside or negative thoughts to kind of
Yes.
keep you from being distracted and things like
Mhm.
that.
Yeah, like
Okay.
a filter for my thoughts would be great.
I think everybody would like a filter now and then,
Mhm.
with just the excessive thoughts. Yeah. Let's see here. Hmm. And then I also see here that you've mentioned quite a bit about, just sadness and crying, things of that nature. Do
Mhm.
you mind just going a little bit further into that?
No, I think there's some days where I think a lot of it is just feeling like overwhelmed. Like sometimes I'll just come home at the end of a long day and just feel that like that feeling like behind my eyes where like I could just want to cry. And then other times like I'll just get really I had this one honestly like I felt embarrassed. I was alone, but I still felt embarrassed. I was upset about something else, and I think the day before I had a really great day, and so like I was in a good mood that day. But I think I was still kind of in like a grieving process, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I thought I was like done with that. I was like, okay, this has been awesome. That's behind me. And I saw this commercial for like Dawn soap, and it had this little duckling, and he was like covered in oil, and I like burst into tears. And I think um, that's like I guess one example, but that's happened kind of like other times. Like I kind of
Mm-hmm.
think like I'm doing fine, like I'm just relaxing, and then like uh like a sad song or like a sad scene in a show or something will come on, and I'll just find myself like sobbing, like
Crying or
yes, and I'm like
some
okay,
form of
yeah,
sadness.
like I'm not really actually genuinely upset about this. It's
Mm-hmm.
just like pure, just like emotion.
Okay. And have you always just, when you see a sad scene or things like that, you always just like get a little sad or start crying or
Um,
things like that, or?
I would say maybe like I would get a little bit sad,
Mm,
but until I was like living like on my own and whatnot, I was always very, very stoic. Like I would never
mm-hmm,
like cry in front of anybody else. So I think yeah, back like when I was like in high school and still like living all the time like with my family, a lot of times like I would feel like I couldn't cry because like what if they found me or
mm-hmm.
something. So I think this is kind of more new, like the
Okay.
actually just crying. Like there's been plenty of times I wanted, like I felt like I wanted to, but I couldn't or I
Yeah.
wouldn't. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, the actual like tearfulness I think is more new, like maybe in the past like 3 years or so.
Okay. So, between the time where you were at home and everything, and like you mentioned, you used to be kind of stoic and
Mm,
things of that nature, to currently where you're by yourself, and now you kind of feel yourself getting just sad
mm.
randomly, things like that. The time in between there, is there um, like anything that you can pinpoint that may have caused that? Is it because you left home or something of that nature?
I think well, I think part of it is like my family is very like stoic, so I think when
Mm,
I was still living home, like I felt like I just like couldn't cry, and I think when I'm with other people, I still get like that. Like I'll
mm-hmm,
get very like stoic, but I think I've gotten a lot more emotional in general since leaving because yeah, my family is very far away, so it's like a lot of the times I'll get really emotional about like maybe like feeling guilty,
mm,
just missing them in general, and yeah, feeling like I like they're just so far away. It's like hard to imagine. Like I want to obviously stay close with them. It's kind of hard to imagine at times. Like
mm-hmm.
okay, they're like 1,500 miles away. How am I gonna
Yeah.
stay close? So I think I've become yeah like a lot more emotional since I've been so
Mm-hmm.
far from them.
Okay. And so you're mentioning guilt. Are you feeling guilt because you left them to pursue your counseling career, or is it another kind of guilt? Where would you say that guilt is coming from?
I think a lot of it is like leaving. Like I think a lot of it is how I left. I definitely like I left very abruptly.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think knew it was coming, I guess, and it just not so soon. So like I just kind of felt like I um not
Sprung
abandoned
it
them, but
on
yes,
them in a
yes, just
sense.
kind of yeah, just kind of like threw it at them.
Okay.
And then yeah, like I'll feel guilty over like missing things. Like I missed last Thanksgiving. I missed
Mm-hmm.
like my niece's like first birthday party. So it's yeah, just like guilt over like leaving them and like I know I'm kind of like focusing on my career and like
Mm-hmm.
development. I know that's good and that's like what I should be doing. But yeah, a lot of times it's just like I left them and that feels
Okay.
very yeah, like guilty.
Okay. And so with you leaving and focusing on your career and things of that nature, are there things that you could do to kind of put aside your career for just maybe like a day or two to kind of get back to your family, like those days that you've missed, like birthday parties or
Mm.
even Thanksgiving? Are there things that you can kind of, not sacrifice, but just kind of put on hold to be able to kind of get back to them and
Um,
relieve a little bit of that guilt,
well,
maybe?
I've done some things like over the summer since I wasn't in school. Like I took like 2 weeks off of well, not 2 weeks off of work, but I took 2 weeks working from home from work, and like I went back up and like stayed with them for a little bit. And I think, yeah, like when I'm there, I'll feel like yeah, much less guilty.
Okay.
I think then there's always like that transition back when I'll feel like a little extra guilty.
Mm-hmm.
And I do try to like make time to like talk on the phone and like Skype if they have time, and just kind of feel like I think some of it maybe isn't guilt, it's like fear of missing out kind of
Okay.
at times. So it's kind of like I'll talk to them and I'll hear about things that they were doing and I'm like okay, well I wasn't there, like I missed all that. But yeah, I think there are definitely times when I could probably you know just open my schedule up a little bit more to have a little bit more time to just like interact with them, just like over the phone, Skype and stuff.
Okay.
Probably be helpful.
Okay, so it's good that you've already kind of started that
Mm.
process of not sacrificing your career or just kind of deserting it, but just putting it to the side for a moment to get back to
Mm.
your family. So that's good
Yeah.
that you've already kind of started that process.
Yeah.
So, how does it make you feel when you are able to just put a pause on what you're focused on, like your career, things like that, to be able to get back to your family? How does that make you feel?
It definitely like it always makes me feel a lot like calmer. Like I think
Okay.
sometimes I guess I'm definitely not doing it like for them. I mean, I think I'm always probably doing it for myself, but yeah, like a lot of times I'll feel really overwhelmed and I'll just feel that like anxiety, like someone's like almost like someone's like choking me a little bit.
Mm,
So I'll like get on Skype or I'll get on the phone like with my mom or I'll Skype both my parents and like yeah, usually especially while I'm talking to them, I'll just feel um
a sense of calm
yes,
coming
it'll feel
over.
yeah like a weight coming off, and then sometimes like right afterwards I'll feel like like sad again because it's like over, but definitely usually makes me feel like better.
Okay, well, that's good.
Yes.
That's good that you feel that sense of calm whenever you are able to get back to them.
Hmm.
Okay. So I do see that our time is ending for
Hmm.
today's
Okay.
session, but the discussion was really good. I
Hmm.
liked, how you were open about your work and, your self-esteem and even that little bit of guilt that you had, maybe like leaving your family.
Hmm.
So all those things are really good to talk about, to kind of express.
Hmm.
And again, I do like how you've already started that process of kind of putting career on pause for just a moment to
Hmm.
kind of get that sense of calm when you do talk to your family. So
Yeah.
that's all good work. I'm just going to ask that you continue doing those little things to, reduce your anxiety and work on your self esteem. And
Hmm.
I'll see you back next week,
Okay.
okay?
Sounds good.
All right.
All right. Thank you.